So welcome back to part 2 of Be Careful Who You Allow to Pour Into Your Marriage. I'm going to start recording now. Let's go. Hello, and welcome back to the Wyfe Up podcast. I'm your host, Deetra, and I'm grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that you stopped by. So this is part 2 of the, it's called Be Careful Who You Allow to Pour Into Your Marriage, right? Who you allow to pour into your marriage. And in the first episode, in part 1 of this, I was just talking about, briefly I was talking about friends, how your friends can pour into your marriage, your mom, just different people. You have to be very careful about who you allow to pour into your marriage, and that you should have good Christian friends. As a Christian woman, I'm a Christian woman, and I know and I've learned that having Christian friends are invaluable. Having Christian sisters in Christ that are going to tell you to pray for your marriage, to tell you different scriptures to read over your marriage, for you to believe over your marriage, for you to have faith in our God, because without faith it's impossible to please God. Like, you need good godly counsel, you need good godly women in your life. And friends to speak life into your marriage, right? And when things are going rough, is what I mean. And so I know that we were talking about a pastor in the last episode, part 1. There's a pastor that did a sermon online on YouTube, and he was talking about identifying your soulmate. And so in part 1, I was just talking about how his different points that I was just kind of going down that I thought were ridiculous for a pastor to teach his flock, because there are people that are going to be listening to what he had to say. He had over 1 million followers that listened to his sermon, watch that video, should I say. And I just thought it was dangerous, the things that he was teaching. Now, granted, he was talking to people, I'm assuming, who were not married, like people who were trying to figure out how to identify their soulmate. And that was all well and good, but it was like a Trojan horse. There were some hidden things in there that I didn't agree with, that I thought this is dangerous, because there are people that are married that are going to take this advice because they might be in a rocky marriage, and they might think, well, this person isn't my soulmate, so I get to leave the marriage and go find my soulmate because he's out there somewhere for me. And that is kind of what we were talking about. And some of the points that I had mentioned about, he was talking about soulmate, I didn't find it in the Bible, so it was God. It wasn't a God thing. It was a man-made definition of what a soulmate was. I do believe that God can bring people into our lives and does have people that he has just for us, but he knows the path that we're going down and where we're going to end up. And so sometimes we end up with people who we picked, pretty much. And, can God change that, save that, and rearrange that? Absolutely. Who are we talking about here, right? Can God resurrect a marriage? We're talking about the original, the only resurrector. So yes, absolutely, right? Anyway, he talks about 2 types of marriages. Religious people condemn divorce. And he started talking about purpose, and that's kind of where we left off. And so he said, the last thing you want to do is get married and find your purpose. What if you wake up and find your purpose and realize you are not the same person who got married, or your spouse does and realizes a counterfeit version of them marry you? Then you will end up sacrificing your purpose for the marriage, or sacrificing the marriage for the purpose. And he said he's purpose driven. So that's his belief, is that, God has a purpose for us. This is my take on his belief, that God has a purpose for us, and that other people can get in the way of that purpose. And if you marry the wrong person, then that can, take your purpose out, pretty much. And, or, you don't get to live out that purpose. Or if you do know what that purpose is, you might have to sacrifice that purpose for that person. Goodness gracious, it's like a tongue twister. Sorry, guys. So what I believe on that is that, yes, I believe that there's a purpose in our life. God has a purpose, and that purpose is for us to, whatever we are going to do is to glorify him ultimately, right? And I believe that throughout our life, there are different things that God has for us, and we might miss the mark over here. There was something that, had I just turned to God in my 20s, he would have had for me, that he might not have for me now at this age that I am. You know what I mean? There's certain things that I was supposed to do, and I didn't do because I derailed my own self. But God already knew that. God already knew that. So that means that because our God is omnipotent And because our God already knows when we're going to come to him, if we're going to come to him, who we're going to be married to, that he has other things laid out for us. He doesn't just have one purpose for our life. He doesn't just have one thing for our life. If God, let's just say God, or one time for our life. Let's just say God is calling a person to be a pastor, right? And had he realized it in his 20s, or had he been obedient in his 20s, or her, right, or him, and he had been obedient in his 20s and decided, you know what, this is what I want to do, and gone down that road, maybe he would have been this world famous pastor from the time he was in his 20s. But let's say he didn't, and he lived life, and the way that the experiences that he experienced, that God used those experiences in that person, or for that person, to grow them into this whole nother person, full of wisdom, full of experience, full of knowledge. And now God is like, okay, I'm still calling you to pastor. And he does at that particular time in his life. I don't believe that purpose gets killed for that reason. Do I think it can be delayed? Yes. I believe you can have kids and whatever God might have had for you at that time. Like, okay, I'll wait. She's not ready now. I'll have it over here waiting for her. Either he's going to have that same purpose just tied up in a different bow, or he's going to have another purpose for you. But God doesn't just end with one purpose. What happens is when you meet God, then he'll tell you all the things that he had for you. But that doesn't mean you don't get God's goodness, because you might have missed it over here, missed that purpose over here, because you decided to take a different path. God knows already what you're going to do. So all of this, I think, is just, no, I don't agree with that. He said, or your spouse does your spouse realizes his purpose and realizes a counterfeit version of him, married you. And then you will end up sacrificing your purpose for the marriage. No, I don't think that we're counterfeit versions of ourselves. That's dangerous. The same person that I was in my 20s and the person that I am now is different. Why? Because I had to grow. There's different things that I had to learn over time. So that person, I met my husband, I was in my 30s. So when I met my husband, that version of me and this version of me are different. That wasn't a counterfeit version of me. That was just who I was at the time. I had to learn from that person. I had to grow from, it's not a counterfeit thing, it's a growth thing. I grew from the age of 19. I grew from the age of 20, 25, 26, 27, 28. I grew from the age of 30. All in my 20s, I was having babies. I'm not the same person. I would like the ovaries, though. I'll take the eggs back. Not back, I would love the same fertility that I had in my 20s. That'd be awesome. Right, God? Thank you. But what I'm saying is that I had to grow into the individual that I am right now. And the purpose that God has for me, for my life, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. And the purpose that God has for my husband's life, he's ready for it. He's growing him right now. And when he does, he and I are going to meet like this. And God will give us direction on who needs to do what at what time. And when it's my time, it'll be my time. And when it's my husband's time, it'll be his time. And our purposes will align. I really, truly believe that. I don't believe in telling people that you find your purpose after you get married, then you have to sacrifice your marriage or sacrifice your purpose. That is dangerous. You don't tell people that. I forgot to mention that if you're tuning into this part 2, I am also video recording. If you didn't hear part 1, please go back and listen to it. I am video recording as I'm speaking because I'm a visual person and I like to watch people as they speak. So you might be visual and you want to watch as well. YouTube channel is called Wyfe Up. You can go over there. If you like what I'm saying, please like and subscribe. So back to that. You're not sacrificing your purpose for your marriage. If you've already married somebody, that's another Trojan horse. So first we have, oh, you figure out he's not your soulmate. So then what? When you're married to this person and you're not getting along, it's very easy to think. The enemy will creep into your mindset and tell you, oh, well, maybe he's not my soulmate. Maybe he's not my soulmate. Maybe I was wrong. And maybe I shouldn't have married him. And maybe I should divorce him. That's the enemy whispering in your ear for you to dissolve your marriage. Understand, God said that he hates divorce. It says it in Malachi 2:16. So if God hates divorce, that means the enemy loves divorce. And every time someone gets divorced, the enemy goes, check, got another one, got him. and dances, right? Another legacy broken. He loves that because his job is to divide and conquer. He comes to kill, steal, and destroy. You guys know that. Kill your joy. Kill your marriage. That's what he wants to do. Steal your marriage. Divorce. Destroy your marriage. Destroy your legacy. Don't get caught up. Don't get caught up. So that's twice that I'm seeing that this pastor is basically talking about things that if you are already married can be detrimental to your marriage. Right? Because if you thinking now, oh, I've married this person and God is now showing me my purpose and it doesn't align with this marriage, so maybe I need to leave him because God is calling me. God is not going to call you to leave your husband unless this man is, devil worshiper or is really doing something that, that has gotten under God's skin and God's like, listen, you need to go, right? He's doing something immoral. That's something different. But for the rest of us, God is not whispering in your ear, leave that man, leave that marriage. No, he's not. The enemy is. The enemy is telling you to leave. The enemy is telling you, say goodbye. You shouldn't be with that person because he's not a part of your purpose. That's not your purpose. Your purpose is, this is what God has for you. And he's not a part of that. You're going to have to let him go. That is not right. That's demonic. That is not right to tell people that, right? And again, he's not talking to married people per se. This pastor, he was more talking to people who were not already married and telling them how to identify a soulmate. But there are married people listening. Pay attention, pastor. You don't get to tell people that. Obviously, I got upset when I saw that. And I was just like, this is dangerous. He had thousands of thumbs down for it because you can't tell people that. Now again, he said, so this whole counterfeit thing, don't buy into that. It's not a counterfeit version of you. It's who you were at this time. If you didn't know God then, and now you found God later in life, right? That version of you is not counterfeit. That was the growth version. That was the version of you that needed to know God, that had to go through this season of your life. And it might have been a self-inflicted season, or so be it. But God knew you were going to go through it. That's not counterfeit. That was who you were. And who you are now is who you are now. And who you will be in 20 years is who you will be. It's not a counterfeit version of yourself right now. That's dangerous. I ain't like that. So, yep. So another thing he said that really kind of got under my skin. He said he is a better husband because of his divorce. Oh, Jesus. What? I get what he's trying to say, right? In other words, he learned a lot of what to do and what not to do. Then say that. Don't say you're a better man because you got divorced. What kind of You're a pastor. You can't tell people that because people that are married are going to be like, oh, maybe men might be out there thinking, you know what? I'm not the best version of myself. Maybe I'll be a better man once I get divorced. This wife is holding me back. This marriage is holding me back. I'm not in love with her anymore. I don't want to be with her anymore. If I get divorced from her, maybe I'll find my purpose and I'll be a better man. No, you don't tell people that. I'm beating on my iPad. I'm sorry. You don't tell people that. That pastor need a good smacking. You don't tell people that. Okay, I don't mean that. I don't go out and do that. But I'm saying he shouldn't tell people that. That's dangerous. You are not a better man because you are divorced. Maybe he meant to say something different, but he didn't. He didn't go back and edit it out. He said, I'm a better man because of my divorce. Couldn't God have made him a better man while he was still married? I'd say yes. I say yes. You're a pastor. You should know that hotline. You read on the hotline. You should know. You should know how God moves. You mean to tell me that God didn't tell you that he could have made you a better man? You mean to tell me that? Men, if you are listening to the sound of my voice and you saw that video, or you go see it now, don't listen to that. That's a load of crock. It's a BS. Don't listen to it. God can make you into a better man while you are married. God can change you into a better wife while you are married. Can you imagine listening to that and thinking, you know what, maybe I should get divorced because that'll make me a better wife. That'll make me a better woman if I divorce this man and then God will grow me and I'll be better for the next man. No, no. Let me just tell you something. I'm not a better woman because of my divorce. No, I'm a better woman because of God. I'm a better woman because I sought out God. I chase after God. I'm hungry for God. God is pouring into me. The Holy Spirit is telling me what I need to do. Jesus is in my heart and in my spirit and in my life. That's what's making me a better woman. Not because I'm divorced. I'm ashamed that I'm divorced. I will never tell anybody to get divorced unless they live, like I mentioned before, unless they're in dire situation. I would never say that. And even that's up to God. That's up to me. So I'm sorry. It angers me greatly that this pastor, this man of the cloth is telling people that he's a better man because he's divorced. You're dead wrong for that. You dead wrong for that, Pastor T. You know it. You dead wrong for that. You don't say nothing like that. I don't care if you're a better husband now for your new wife. That's great. But it's not because you got divorced. It might be where you are. You've learned some things in the past. You're older now than you were 17 years ago when you first got married. So you learned some things when you first got married to your other wife. So you learned some things along the way. Heck, if you're not growing as you get older, that's a problem. It wasn't the counterfeit version of you. It was the you. That's who you were at that particular time. And now you are who you are. You're just looking for an excuse to justify what you've done. That's the way I see it. I'm not going to see it any differently. I don't care what you say. I can see right through that. All right. So he said that. I don't agree with that. God can make you a better husband while you're married. And God can make you a better wife while you're married. You just got to lean on him. He said that over half the marriages end in divorce. It's because there are marriages that God put together and marriages that man put together. Don't blame the devil. It's not the devil. That's what he said. Okay. First of all, the enemy does not like marriage. God hates divorce. The enemy hates marriage, right? The enemy can weave his way through within a marriage, separate, divide, and conquer. He can do it. I'm telling you, I've seen it. Obviously, you have to be open to it. That's when you don't have a strong relationship with God. You got one foot in Christ and one foot in the world, and you've allowed the enemy in. In different ways. That's a whole nother video. That's a whole nother podcast as to how you allow the enemy in. Things you watch, songs that you listen to. Like you open yourself up for a whole lot of attacks. People don't even realize it, right? And so people, because you've opened the door for attack from the enemy through different things, through sin. You open the door through sin, which allows the enemy to come in and attack you, period, right? Sin could be lying. Sin could be adultery. Sin could be coveting. Sin could be, you know what all the sins are, right? So you might be allowing the enemy in and you don't even realize it. And when he comes in, he don't play fair, right? And so he says, don't blame the devil. It's not the devil. Though the devil has a hot hand in the destruction of a marriage. Hot hand. Hot, right? But he's saying that these marriages are ending in divorce because God didn't put them together. Man put them together. He also alludes that, I said it in my next point, but he said, since God didn't put it together, stuff happens. Okay, so this is what I want to say to you about that. And I've alluded to this before. A lot of us get married, and we might be married to people who God might not have intended for us initially, but God knew we were going to get married, period, because he's omnipotent. He already knew. What if you married the wrong person, or you married the person that God might not have intended for you? Let's just say that. What if from the very beginning of your marriage, you turned your whole marriage over to God? What if every single day you pray for your marriage? What if you plead the blood of Jesus over your husband every single day, draw a bloodline of Jesus around your marriage every single day? What if you employ angels to surround and protect you and your husband and your household? What if you put your marriage on the altar? What if you allow God to do a thing? What if? You mean to tell me you don't think God will do it? Now, it might not be overnight. You might be married. You might have married somebody that you really had no business marrying, but that doesn't mean that God can't change him. Listen, Linda. Listen, Linda. God can do anything. God is capable of doing everything. You can't put nothing. There's nothing. You can't put nothing on God that he can't fix. Nothing. And so before you decide that you're going to get divorced, you have to. You owe it to yourself. Not to your flesh. Flesh says, let me go ahead and get that whole thing of what he said was flesh. Flesh says, oh, let me go find my Mr. Right, my soulmate. Flesh says, let me find my purpose after I divorce this guy. Flesh says that I'm just a counterfeit right now, but the version of me, my new husband's going to get. That's all stupid. That's flesh. God says in John 14:13-14, and I will do whatever you ask in my name so that the Father may be glorified in the Son. You may ask me for anything in my name and I will do it. Wait a minute. I can ask for a glorious marriage. I can ask for an amazing, fun, sexy, incredible marriage. I can ask for that. I can wait for God to not only change me, but to change my husband at the same time. I can pray and intercede on my husband's behalf. I can do that. Yes. You didn't know that? No, you didn't know that. Oh, okay. Well, I'm here to tell you you can. And it's happened to me. I've done it. I've lived it. I've done it. I've seen it. I'm seeing it. You a praying woman. And there's so many women that want to, I'm sorry, my nose itch. There's so many women that want to be Proverbs 31 women. But y'all not. Y'all not. Because if you were, you would make sure your household was a certain way. You would make sure you were praying and interceding. You would make sure you got up and was praying for that man every single day, even on the days you don't like him. You would be doing it. And you would have so much faith in God that you would know. You would sit back and go, I know it's already done. So on those days where he's arguing or he might say something out of pocket to you or maybe call you out your name, you could be like, okay. Okay. You know what I mean? You might be like, all right, I'm not that, but all right. And you go in your prayer closet and you get on your knees and you pray like, God, I know you changing him. I can see it. Because what God's going to do is send you little bitty signs, right? You might be arguing 7 days a week and that might drop to 5. Right? But you got to see it. You got to realize what's happening. Like, wait, we don't argue every single day anymore. We only argued 5 days last week. Next thing you know, it's only 3. Wait a minute. 4 days out of the week last week, we got along really great. And then it goes down to 2. Then with this whole week that you haven't even said anything cross to each other and everything is great and groovy and you're starting to look at him in a new light. God is giving you a new set of eyes for your husband. Come on, girl. Listen, wife. Don't fall for the okie doke. Don't fall for the okie doke. And this pastor right here, that whole sermon was okie doke. If you were married, it was okie doke. Even if you weren't married, it was okie doke. It was okie doke. Okay? He said, don't blame the devil. God didn't put the marriage together. Then that's why so many marriages are ending in divorce, especially I guess in the Christian world. But if you're in Christ, then you have faith, and if you have faith, then you know our God can do anything. You can ask anything in his name. You can ask our God for anything. And because it might not seem, it might not, like I said, might not happen overnight, right? Because God got work to do. We're talking about however old you are, years that he has the things that he has to turn around in you, in him too. But he can do it. I'm here to tell you. What else did he say? Okay. So this is going to be my last point because it's the last thing on my paper. Okay. He said that if the person is not your soulmate, then you didn't enter a marriage, you into a failure. He said that. The pastor who made up his definition of soulmate, or maybe he got it from Webster's Dictionary, he didn't get it from the Bible. That man said that if you married a person that wasn't your soulmate, then you didn't enter into a marriage, you entered into a failure. How you going to tell people that? How are you going to tell married people that they entered into a failure after they now going to look at their husbands all crazy, thinking, well, you're not my soulmate, or husbands looking at wives thinking, you're not my soulmate? You can't tell people that. His pastor card should have been taken away that day. Now, granted, people make mistakes, and like I said, I believe there was an agenda with his whole video, and it was kind of to justify why he left his wife of 17 years and why he's now marrying this woman. I don't know, and I could be wrong, but that's the way it really felt to me. because you cannot tell people this. I just read off, I don't know how many points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 points, right? In which this man has said pure BS to married people. Pure okie doke, right? He said, if you did not marry your soulmate, then you didn't enter a marriage, you entered into a failure. He said it wasn't going to work. It couldn't work. Divorce was just the natural. This pastor said divorce is natural. Our God hates divorce, and he said divorce is natural. Let me read it again. He said that if the person is not your soulmate, then you didn't enter into marriage, you entered into failure. It wasn't going to work. It couldn't work. Divorce was just the natural. He said religious people don't get it because they're not in your marriage, and only the religious people will judge you and twist the word. I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. So you're religious if you want to go by the word. God hates divorce. That's what it says. Will God forgive you if you get divorced? Yes, because our God is a forgiving God. Will God still bless you? Our God is a forgiving God, so God will bless you. Right? But there's other blessings that are there in your union that you're going to miss out on. And this pastor said that you didn't enter a marriage, you entered into a failure. So if you are a woman, and if you're a husband listening, if you are married and you're not getting along with your wife right now, those type of words are very dangerous for you to think that you're not entered into right marriage. That's my point. You'll look at your spouse and you'll think, you're not the right person for me. You're not my soulmate. You're just a counterfeit, or I'm a counterfeit. We don't even need to be together. And you'll start thinking this because this is what this pastor says. He's a pastor, right? He should know what he's talking about, right? Wrong. He's dead wrong. He's dead wrong for this. And so for anybody that's married out there, I just want to give you some hope. I just want you to know that our God is I already said it, he is a all-knowing God. He knew you was going to get married to this person. He already has a solution for your marriage. All you have to do is reach out to him. He already has an answer for you, like any good father, like any good parent would. If our kids came to us and needed an answer, wouldn't we have an answer? Sometimes our kids do things and we let them do it because we're like, oh, you know what? I done told you over and over again. You know what? He's got to find his own path. He's got to figure out his own way. But I'm his mama. I'm going to love him. So when he comes back to me, I'm just going to welcome him back with open arms. And I'm just going to help him as much as I can. That's what a parent would do. And so when your child does something and they come back to you and you're just like, what do you need? What do you need? And we want to help them. It might not have been the path that we chose for them, but we're going to help them. And that's what God does when you've picked this person that you've picked and you're like, God, I want a good marriage. I want change. The problem is that people say, oh, I prayed and I prayed and I prayed, but they didn't turn everything over to God. And they didn't stick around to wait to see what God was going to say. They just did what they wanted to do in the meantime, or what their friends told them to do, because their friends were pouring into their marriage and pouring in things that they shouldn't have been. Get yourself some friends that's going to help you, that's going to pray for your marriage, that's going to say, girl, I got you. Let's pray and intercede. Let's worship. Let's put your marriage on the altar, because God can turn any marriage around. He can't. But if you're in a marriage that is not, again, severe, there's not something crazy and immoral going on, you need to turn your marriage over to God and have God pour into your marriage, not some pastor who clearly doesn't know what he's talking about and has his own agenda. I'm for marriages. I'm pro-marriage. I'm here to fight for you. If you need prayer, let me know. You want someone that's going to help you build up your marriage, tune in, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my podcast. That's what we're going to be talking about, ways to build up your marriage, ways to have kingdom marriage. That is what you want. And I'm telling you, once you get there, it's beautiful. My marriage with my husband right now, oh my gosh, we weren't always like that. I said that in my other podcast. We were dysfunctional, okay? And we could have thrown in the towel. I didn't want that. I didn't want to be a divorcee twice. I turned it over to God. And what God did, he gave us beauty for ashes. Ooh, our marriage is so beautiful and amazing. And I'm telling you, God can do it. You just have to have patience, and you just have to, most of all, have faith, because God can do it. Anyway, guys, my time's up. Gotta go. Bye for now. I did too. Bye, guys. Thanks for hanging out with me. I'm sorry that little dance was, I did too. I got to do part 1 and part 2 back to back. And I really wanted to get that out there. So I'm really grateful for that. And thank you for tuning in. And I will have this video up as soon as I can, probably tonight or tomorrow, which is tomorrow's Friday, September the 11th. Wow. Anyway, guys, bye for now.